back to the consolation round of the men's 3-meter NCAA championships.
We're ready for this is Kevin Rockhill and Jim Milborn. Ready for Connor from Stanford University. First dive, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist pike. This is your B final. Going for places 9th through 16th.
Connor does a much better job here in the consolation round. He's weight on the board, jumped up into the air a little bit higher. He got a little bit over, a little bit aggressive there at the end, went a little long.
And Indiana University Ahmad is going to be doing inward 2.5 somersault pike. IU's looking for some big points out of their divers for the team scores. They're having a nice meet here. Ahmad's from Cairo, Egypt.
He's the Egyptian national champion on 1-meter and 3-meter. Does a pretty good job there on this inward 2.5 pike. Lets his hips move back just slightly, comes away with 7s. He's pretty happy with 63 points here on the first dive.
And Taylor's going to be doing inward 2.5 somersaults pike, the same dive as Ahmad just did. This is the first round of 6. There's 8 divers competing.
Taylor does a pretty good job getting off the board. Gets the somersault moving pretty good. As he comes out, he's just kind of looking a little bit like he's a little tentative on the come out. He needs to really commit to the push off the board, commit to the come out, get a little bit more up and down.
3 inward 2.5 somersaults pike in a row. Mikey's going to be doing the same dive, University of Minnesota.
You see he threw up and over the diving board a little bit better than the previous diver. Got the dive to go in the water clean. He's still off a little bit, throwing a little bit to the right. Comes away 58 points.
And for this first round dive, John Santo, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist pike. John's from Auburn.
John is 6 foot 2 inches tall. And he gets every bit of that 6 foot 2 inch frame straight up and down in the water. Beautiful rip entry. Rides the board well, comes away 8, 7.5, 69 points. He's going to be happy with the way that first dive came around.
And Jacob, back 2.5 somersaults pike. Jacob's from University of Virginia. Cavaliers.
Just leans back a little bit on the start, blocks his chest as he comes out, arches it around a little too much, doesn't quite grab hands, goes long. Waiting on Judge 5's score here. Going to come 58.5 points here.
And Raphael from University of Arizona. First dive, round 1, front 3.5 somersaults pike.
Raphael does a really good job waiting on the board, gets the somersault moving, spins really fast in the air, ducks the head on the entry, feet go slightly past 60.45.
And diver number 8, Riley McCormick. Front 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist pike. Arizona State.
On the preliminary round, we noticed that he kind of looked like he had a knee buckle. I think that's kind of the way he comes into this hurdle. He's done that now consistently on each of those front approaches. Doesn't quite catch the board, makes the dive a little more difficult, 63 points.
Who's our leader, Kevin? Going to round 2. Looks like John Santo.
John Santo at 69 points.
And Connor's going to be doing front 3.5 somersaults pike.
Now, John thought that dive was moving a lot faster than it really was. Came out at about the triple. Didn't work the bottom of the dive. He's not going to be happy with the 31 points he got on that one.
Ahmad, same dive, front 3.5 somersaults pike.
Ahmad spins that really well. He's done it 3 meters. He doesn't quite finish. He needs to bring his shoulders down horizontal or vertical to the water, then lift his legs up. Comes away 65.1 points.
And Taylor's going to be doing the same dive, but in tuck position, front 3.5 tuck.
Taylor doesn't jump nearly as high as the other men in this contest. Does a really good job with the somersaults. Notice the dive just doesn't have the excitement flare that some of the others that are over the 7-meter tower do, but it gets in the water really clean. Comes away with 61.6 points. Should be happy with the final result there.
And Mikey for round 2, front 3.5 somersaults pike. Oh, that's great.
Absolutely beautiful rip entry. Did line up short, but he ripped the bottom of that dive. He's at University of Minnesota, dives with Wimbo, trained divers here at the National Training Center in Indianapolis for a number of years. Michael comes away with 69.75. There probably is going to be an adjustment here to the score, and there is. Judge 5 is showing a 2. In reality, it should have been an 8.
Push the wrong key. John, front 3.5 somersaults pike. Wimbo had a great women's NCAA as well. Minnesota had some great divers here.
John is currently their leader. Just doing an amazing job today. Another wonderful entry. You know, Chris mentioned earlier today how tall he was, and while that is a disadvantage in getting the somersaults moving, you get lined up, put it up straight up and down, and the rip is so much easier. Being said from a tall person myself, found the lineups to be easier the taller I was.
Jacob, inward 2.5 somersaults pike.
Jacob does a good job saving that dive. It's a little bit long as he's going in the water. Underwater pike save keeps it from going completely by. Comes away 63 points. That's a pretty good dive for JB. He's going to do...
Raphael's doing front 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist. Pike. Does it out.
Yeah, he gets the somersault moving. Chris and I were talking about this earlier today. The twist itself doesn't seem to move very fast. Just sort of slows it all down and just leaves him a little bit short. If he could finish his twist a little quicker, he could line the dive up at the bottom.
And we got Riley doing front 3.5 somersaults pike.
Riley puts the dive away at the bottom. He's leaning forward as he comes off the diving board. Really want to stay balanced. Sit back in your chair, balance on the heels a little more. Let the dive move up over the top instead of out over the rainbow.
Going to round 3, we got John Santo in first with 138, and let's see, who do we have in second? McCormick in second with 129.65. So we got about a 9-point spread here. We got Connor doing back 2.5 somersaults pike. What happened there, Kevin?
Connor leaves that dive very, very short. You see as he's going down into the press, it almost looks like his knees might have buckled a little bit. Got into a hurry coming off the board, so the board kind of, his body absorbed all the energy from the diving board.
And for Mayu, Imad's doing front 3.5 somersaults pike. Correction, back 2.5 somersaults pike.
I'd like to see Ahmad throw back after, block his chest, throw back after his legs a little bit more. He can press out, hit his target. He kind of let his target just slide by him. Dive goes over at the end. It's going to come away 4.5, 5, 42 points.
And Taylor's going to do the same dive Ahmad just did, back 2.5 somersaults pike. We're in round 3. Third diver, round 3.
I like the way that one stood up. He's a little bit of a hurry, but he stayed in balance. As he comes out, doesn't quite stretch the bottom of the dive, so the dive entry is heavy. Comes away with 63 points.
And Michael Ross, back 2.5 somersaults pike.
Michael falls back a little bit on that takeoff, but then absolutely destroys the entry. Last thing the judges see is the entry. Even though it's not what you judge completely, it doesn't hurt when you put a 10 entry on a 7 dive. You can come away with 8, 7.5, 69 points there.
And here's our leader going to round 3, John Santo. Reverse 2.5 somersaults pike.
John just very patient on the diving board, lets that somersault develop high, floats around the entry, and just completely rips the entries. A little bit out, a little bit loose. A couple judges didn't like that. Comes away 61.5, 7, 7.5.
Yeah, a little loose on that pike, Kevin. JB, reverse 1.5, 3.5 twists. A little tight.
Yeah, he's anticipating the twist action. He kind of drops his left arm early. I mean, he wasn't even off the board before he started to drop around and look over to the left. Good foot push. Probably a little tight from the angle of the judges. They're showing anywhere from a 2.5 to a 5. He won't like the results at 37.4.
And Raphael, back 2.5 somersaults pike.
Raphael's out of representing Arizona. Doesn't completely extend off the diving board as he's leaving the board. Kind of loose as he's coming out of the dive at the bottom. Leaves it a little bit short. It's going to come away 40.5 points. Just really needs to tighten up his core throughout the press and through the come-out sequence.
We got Riley McCormick in second place after round 2. Back 2.5 somersaults pike.
Absolutely disappears in the water there. Again, lets the shoulders come back a little bit loose on the out, but he's going to come away with 7.5 and 8, 69 points. Should be happy with the results there.
And we got a 2-point lead. John Santo over Riley McCormick going into round 4. Connor, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Third place is Mikey Ross, 197 with 3 points back. Got 3 divers, really tight.
Speaking of tight, Connor's pike was just absolutely impressive. There's no air in between the chest and the legs, but he was a little slow to develop, let his hips move out. We've seen that a lot today. The divers on reverses are letting their hips lead the way. They really need to stay tall on the board, lead with their fingertips.
And from IU, we got Ahmad doing reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. See a little crimp there coming off?
I do see a little crimp coming off. See flat feet in the air. His pike isn't as tight as what we've seen. He's kind of got his head and chest out, holding on to the edge of his legs. 43.5 points there.
From Stanford, we got Taylor doing reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. We're in round 4.
Again, we see another reverse 2.5 pike that travels out and away from the diving board instead of jumping up and blocking their chest, spinning on the way up. Makes it hard to get it up and down in the water clean. Comes away 51 points, mostly 5.5s there.
We got Michael Ross, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike.
Michael came into that round in 3rd position. You see his dive goes over to the right just a slight bit, comes out way early, floats it around, gets in clean. Really needs to stay in front of the board, take it up a little higher instead of go so far out. Going to come away with 6.5, 7s.
And here's our leader going into round 4, John Santo, Auburn, back 2.5 somersaults pike.
In order to maintain his lead at this point in the contest, he needs to get at least 57 points. The average is 53 on the dive. He's just been a very consistent diver today. And again, just beautiful sounding entry. See his head up high. Takes a little longer for that dive to develop, but once he gets it moving, gets out of it, he's got a high of 8, low of 7, 66 points.
Diver number 6, JB, reverse 3.5 somersaults tuck. Ooh.
He does a phenomenal job with that reverse 3.5. A little loose on the out, but he gets up into the air, spins, kicks out at about board level, and lines it up, gets it straight up and down. 66 points.
Diver number 7, Raphael, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike.
He is really looking at us as he leaves the diving board, which means he's turned to the left quite significantly. Does a good job with the dive after he's up in the air, but you just can't fix that off-center somersault. They come way there with 4.5s and 5s.
Riley, reverse 2.5 somersaults pike. Wow.
Riley doesn't get in the air as high as what we saw even John earlier, but he gets the dive straight into the water. Nice and controlled, gets a high of 9, mostly 8.5s. That does move him into the first position by about 11 points. That was a great dive on his part.
Starting out in round 5, our leader he just took over the lead. McCormick at 275, followed by John Santo at 266. We got Connor doing forward 2.5 somersaults, 2-twist pike. That was one of the tougher dives at 3.4 degree of difficulty.
Yeah, you need to start that dive out as though you're trying to do a front 3.5 somersault pike, get the somersault moving so you've got enough energy built up that you can initiate the twist and then pike down. He left that dive short. Just can't leave it short and expect to score good points on it.
Mott's going inward here, inward 3.5 somersaults tuck. Key on this dive, Kevin.
Needs to stay balanced, drive the hips and shoulders up into the air first, chase a pike somersault, turn it into a tuck at the end. He draws his legs up just a little bit and gets out of the dive well, a little bit low, leaves the dive heavy, going to come away with 7s, 6.5, 69.7 points.
And Taylor, fifth round dive, forward 2.5 somersaults, 1 twist, pike. You can do this in or out, Kevin.
Yeah, we have not seen anybody do the front 2.5 full twist in this competition today. We did see one last week, the women's platform event. He's ahead of the dive there. Needs to really drive up into that hurdle and stretch, keep the core muscles tight so that he can get thrown up into the air a little bit harder. Comes away with 6s, 55.5 points.
And Mikey Ross, back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists, pike.
Mike currently in 3rd position. He's capable of doing this dive for 70+ points. Lost his legs there as he took off, but he absolutely destroyed the entry. You're going to see what the judges look at. They don't look just at the entry here. They look at the overall impression of the dive. We have a low of 6, high of 7, 66 points there. Should be pretty happy with that score.
We got John Santo, 2nd place going to this round. And we're 2.5 somersaults pike.
John needs to make up 11 points on Riley in order to take the lead over again. We're 2.5 somersault pike. Big dive for a tall diver. And he just makes it look easy. Stands it up. He's patient. Lets the dive get vertical. Just a little bit of foot splash that went straight up as you see him go in the water. He's going to come away with 1.8, the rest 7.5, 67.5 points on that.
And JB doing front 2.5 somersaults, 2 twist pike. Big dive, 3.4 in the DD.
He threw that dive down just a little bit, drove his hips up well, got his feet up over his head, so he was able to get the dive around vertical, but he's not very high in the air. He's going to get 71.4 points. He'll be happy with the score, I believe. Just like to see him ride the board a little bit more.
Got Raphael doing inward 2.5 somersaults pike. Whoever wins this consoles gets 9 points for their team. Arizona's having a great swimming meet, so they're counting on Raphael to help him out a little bit here.
Raphael just jumped up inward 2.5 pike, way up over the diving board. A little heavy on the entry, but there was not a whole lot wrong with that dive other than the entry there. He's going to cut high of 7.5 and 8s, 1 6.5 there it looks like.
And our leader going into this round, Riley McCormick, inward 2.5 somersaults pike.
He's going to need 58.6 points in order to maintain the lead. He averages about 68 points. He's definitely going to do that here on this dive. Beautiful entry, slightly long, got his head down a little bit early. I think he'll probably come away with, 8.5, 73.5.
Final round. Look for a great round from these gentlemen. Connor starting off with over 2.5 somersaults pike. Our leader is still Brian McCormick at 3:48, followed by John Santo at 3:33.
Riley increased his lead by about 3 points that round.
I think you're going to see some great dives this round.
He's got a 3.4 degree of difficulty coming up at the end. It's very nice inward 2.5 pike. Just set back just a little bit. Could keep his chin up, stay in balance, move his shoulders forward as he takes off. 66.7.5. John will have a 3.4 degree difficulty as well. John's doing an inward 3.5 tuck to finish his round out. So it'll be fun competition between those two.
We got Ahmad doing front 2.5 somersaults, 2 twist.
You see him come out of that somersault really, really early. He never gets his whole body long and extended again. So you see a little bit of wobble in the twist. He comes 66.3 points. Not a bad dive for him, but you'd like to see him get a little bit tighter when he's twisting.
Yeah, if you're not totally straight, you're going to wobble.
Taylor from Stanford here doing reverse 1.5 somersault with 2.5 twist.
Got a little bit out on that.
Yeah, he's in a hurry. Diving board still down, pushes the hips out, lets the dive move out on the pendulum instead of up over the top of the fence. Comes away 58 points.
Big dive from Mikey here. Reverse 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twist pike.
Mike's currently in the 3rd position. It's going to take a big dive to move up any higher than that. Came off the board. Really good dive as far as degree of difficulty is concerned. He comes off the board, those legs split, a little bit wobbly in the twist, gets into the water pretty clean. Going to go high of 7, low of 6, 62.7 points.
What's John need here on this inward 3.5 somersaults tuck to move
well,
into
to currently
the lead?
move into position, he needs 52.2 points. I suspect he's going to need to get one of the best inward 3.5s that he's ever done. He's going to have to go over 68 points in order to do any moving. He might even need to go up into the high 70s.
Yeah, Raleigh's got a 3.4 coming up for his final dive.
Now John stands that up over the board really well. He's very patient. A little bit loose leg as he goes into the water. That's a big dive for a tall diver. He comes 66.3. That matches his high score ever on the dive, so he can't ask for a whole lot more than that. That does move him into 1st position for the time being.
And we got JB, final dive. Front 3.5 somersaults pike. Got a little bit back on the board.
A little bit back on the board, realized it, kind of threw down at the water, so he's spinning really, really fast. As he checks out, kind of ducks his head, goes over a little bit. Heads down on takeoff, head down on entry. Comes away 60.45 points.
2 more divers left. Got Raphael, inward 3.5 somersaults tuck.
Raphael's capable of scoring in the low 70s on this. Average is 60. Very well done. Stood that up a whole lot better than he did earlier in prelims. Got the dive in the water a little bit cleaner. Going to walk away 76.5 points. Best he's done that dive to date.
Okay, what's Riley need on this front 2.5 somersaults, 2 twist pike, Kevin, to take over the lead?
In order to show us the 1st place in the consoles, he needs 51.4 points. He averages 63, so this shouldn't be a problem for him.
Not a problem at all.
No, that's definitely there. There's your 9th place finisher. He's great job getting in the water. Coming around 7.5, 8. He's a little bit far out, a little bit lost legs, but rips the bottom of the dive. Comes away 425.15 to win the consolation finals. John Santua's 400.05. Then we have Michael Ross, then followed by JB. Then we have Ahmad, Riley, Taylor, Connor, finishes up from Stanford in the 16th position.
So we had a 25-point lead from Riley over John. Kevin, just to kind of summarize and wrap up today's 3-meter, what did you think?
Some exciting diving going on today on the 3-meter springboard. You've got a number of Olympians and world-class divers here in the competition. The finals this evening are going to be a lot of fun to watch. Christian Ibsen, Olympian gold or bronze medal with his synchro partner Troy Dumais. He led the entire Olympic trials up until the last dive, just missing the second spot on the Olympic team by about 4,500ths of a point. He's set to put in a good performance tonight. Really could look to see him break David Bodia's record. He took David Bodia's 1-meter record last night. See if he can follow it up with another record-breaking performance tonight. But he's got Nick McCrory in the race. Nick is an amazing competitor. Yesterday on the 1-meter springboard, he balks on his very first dive, and then he has a knee buckle on his second attempt on that dive. A lot of divers would have just stopped at that point, fallen off the board, quit, whatever. Nick did not do that. He put everything he had into it and completes what I would call almost a standing front 3.5 somersaults on 1 meter. Doesn't score well, but it does put some points on the board for him. He comes back with a reverse 2.5 to really start his run to the finals. Makes the finals, finishes second behind Christian on the 1 meter. Nick is capable of putting together the performance that'll win the 3-meter competition. You have Darian Schmidt out of IU. He's an amazingly talented athlete, very strong, big, broad-shouldered guy, but he can get dives down into the water. He comes into the finals in 8th place, so he's one of those guys that really doesn't have anything to lose. He can't go further down than where he's at. Sometimes that takes the pressure off of you, lets you come back with a big performance. I believe he's a Big Ten champion here on one of the springboards. He's a fun diver to watch. You've got Greg Ferrucci. Last time he was here at the natatorium was in 2006 at the U.S. Open. USA diving meet, had an accident on the reverse 2.5 tuck. Came back yesterday, was the first competition he's had in this pool since then. I talked to his coach. So, what are you looking for? He says, right now we're just looking to get through this meet as relaxed as possible. It's Greg's nervous about some things. I don't know if it's really nerves, it's adrenaline, but his 1-meter performance wasn't what we thought it should be. I said, well, looking at the history that Greg has here, how's that affecting him? And said he came in and he's not only is he diving, he's diving on the same board that he had his accident on.
It didn't seem to phase him at all.
He did reverse 2.5 pike today for 9.
Yeah, same dive.
Same dive in the pike position and puts it in for 9. It was a little bit out. We'll give him that, but so was everybody else's today.
Hey, you got to give him a little grace on that.
You do, and he's also battling back from a thumb injury. He was out of the water for 6 weeks coming into the first of the year. Hurt his thumb doing back 2.5, twisting 2.5 on 10 meter. But he's poised to make a run for it. It really should be a wonderful competition this afternoon or this evening. The broadcast will be seen on ESPN and ESPN3. You can get a live webcast at ESPN3.com.
Just look for NCAA swimming and diving.
Yeah, you'll have to scroll through there to find the NCAA swimming and diving. It'll start promptly. I believe it's supposed to start at 7 o'clock, 7:30. I believe is when they predict the time to be. But you probably want to go to ESPN3.com just to make sure. Don't wait too long. You want to get your feed running so you can watch this amazing event that's going to take place tonight.
You can also do side-by-side with divemeets.com. Check the leaderboard out as the meet's going on.
Divemeets.com is very nice. It's where we get a lot of our information. You can click on these divers, find out where they are. We also have Harrison Jones tonight. Harrison Jones is an amazing diver. He's been a top-level diver for as long as I've been watching the senior levels in the sport. Back in 2004, 2005, he started to make his presence known. He's kind of dove in the shadows of David Bodia and Thomas Finchenholm on the platform. Drew Livingston, all 4 of those were really competing head-to-head. This gives Harrison a chance to come out and show everybody what he can do, and he's an amazing diver.
He is.
Spins faster than anybody does. Inward 4.5 tuck on the 10-meter tower with no spring whatsoever.
I don't think that guy has any pressure on. I mean, he never shows pressure. He just has fun.
Always has fun. Every time you see him, he just looks like he's having a good time. You got David Benucci from Missouri. He's out here competing after rupturing an eardrum. He's diving with a swim cap on to protect that ear. He's going to understand he's supposed to have surgery after the season is over to repair that. Ryan Hawkins from Virginia Tech, fun diver to watch. Gets in the water clean, beautiful entries. It's going to be an amazing event. You got Shane from Ohio State, and the top 8 divers were separated by 66 points.
Wow.
In the preliminary rounds, and it might sound like a lot if you're out there listening. You're used to diving in the age group levels, or you dive high school, junior high. You see some of these scores. Keep in mind, Christian Ibsen yesterday did a single dive on the 1-meter springboard that scored 91 points.
Yep.
We saw
best dive of the meet.
Saw a lot of dives today in the 58 to 62, 63 point range. So you have a 91 point with a 60 point dive. All of a sudden, you've made up a 33 point gap.
Yep.
So there's no guaranteed winner tonight. That's for sure.
Looks like we're going to be back on the webcast 10:55 tomorrow morning for day 3 of the NCAA Men's Swimming and Diving Championships on the iHigh Network. Again, tune in to ESPN, ESPN3 for coverage of tonight's swimming. That should be great. The diving should be great. We're looking for a really fast 100 breaststroke. We had an American record set this morning at prelims, and it'll be fun to watch. So signing off.